Well, good morning. I'm meteorologist Tracy Beene. Thank you so much for joining me on THV 11 Plus. And we're going to take a little slower look at the weather for today and all of those ingredients that are kind of coming into play. And also, if you'd like to send me a question, I'll do my best to answer those at 501-376-1111. You can text that in. We're going to talk about the potential development of these storms, and we're also going to talk about the potential for these not to develop today. So again, it's one of those tricky forecasts. We're going to have to watch the clouds today, watch the sky. We are looking for those clouds to become, instead of just a little flatter, to become more vertical. That's that updraft kind of working, and I'll let you know exactly what goes into that as well coming up. But just taking a quick sneak peek overlook. I love this graphic because it's just a nice overall picture of the day. We are looking for that weather impact alert for today. We're starting out this morning in the 60s. We start out with a few clouds. I'm going to start to see a little more sunshine. I was just looking out in the weather garden, starting to see that, but we're going to see those temperatures get really close to 80 today across a good portion of the state, and those winds are going to start to kick up even before the storm system makes it here. We do have a wind advisory throughout the day, which I'll show you a quick map on that in a minute, but those winds are going to kick around anywhere from 20 to 30 sustained, and then gusting 40 to 45. And again, that's going to be before any storms even start to pick up and arrive. So then when the storms come, if they develop, a big if, we are talking about some very, very gusty winds that could be a bit damaging. So again, overall, this is a great graphic, but today is a day to pay attention to the weather. Have your watches and warnings and notifications enabled. You can download the THV app, very easy. You can choose exactly what you want to see, and that way you'll know everything. And especially it's great at nighttime too, because although these will be coming into the evening hours, sometimes these come through overnight, and that's a little dangerous because folks are sleeping. So again, it's a great way. So let's talk about the wind today. We're going to start with that, and then we'll ease into this parameters for our severe weather. So this wind advisory, gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour sustained today. We're starting to see them pick up, but this is going to begin around 10 a.m. this morning. They'll be a bit breezy before then as well, and then lasting through Saturday around 1 a.m. And you'll see that purple area, that is looking for some high wind alerts. That area could see some gusts up to 50, 60 miles per hour. And again, those are outside of storms. That's just this very, very tight gradient that we have, and I'll show you that low pressure system here in just a little bit. But also talking about fire alerts. Oddly enough, one portion of the state is going to be fairly dry today, and then the other side of the state has the potential for some severe weather, so kind of cutting a diagonal half, if you will. But fire danger is something to keep in mind, that it's going to be very dry. Those dew points are going to be low, so when with these crazy winds today, fire danger is something to keep in mind. So currently looking at the winds, this is a bit, it's not a lot going on there right now. Looking at those winds, just still fairly light, but I was looking at a few few of the flags on the tower cams, and you can still see them starting to get going. But as we're looking through the rest of the day, just kind of forecasting things out a little bit, we're going to start to see things pick up again late morning and before lunch, and starting to see those gusts around 20-25 in central Arkansas, already starting to see 40 in northwest Arkansas, but making its way, just getting ever so higher and higher as we're heading into the 5 o'clock hour. There you see Fayetteville, Harrison looking at 50 and above. Central Arkansas right around 40, and all around us again looking at that 40 to 45 mark. But they'll start to settle down a smidge, but you can see especially in that northeastern corner, things are still flaring up there around 9 p.m. tonight. Now this is the severe weather risk that we have for today from the Storm Protection Center. We have talked all week about this area off to the east that was in that enhanced area. Now when we put the weather impact alert out, central Arkansas, Little Rock specifically, was in that enhanced area. We have watched this system shift east all week long, just little by little. And when you start to see the parameters come together, you know, these storms are evolving when they are so far out, and still evolving honestly today as it's making its way here. But we're continuing to see that potential for those severe storms possible in that central portion, in that yellow, that 2 out of 5. And then as you're getting further east, and especially northeast, that potential for severe weather risk is certainly increasing. But again, that's that big if, and we'll talk about that if these storms do develop. Now into Saturday, we are still seeing some lingering storms that could pass through, especially in the southeastern portion of the state. Now again, we are looking today at that bullseye necessarily being to our northeast of the state, and then it shifts to our south as we're heading into Saturday, which puts another corner of the state in a bit of danger and just having to watch. But again, just a little bit there in that enhanced, but you can have some severe weather outbreaks in that 2 out of 5. So don't think just because you aren't in the red or the orange, it does increase those parameters, but it is certainly possible. So it's always something to keep in mind as we are talking about that severe weather. Quickly too, I wanted to review, sometimes we talk about that 2 out of 5 or that, you know, enhanced or the everything. What does it mean? What does it mean? So the level 1, when we talk about that, those isolated severe storms are possible. That's kind of more that gray area. When we start talking about that 2 out of 5, which is what central portion of the state is in, that's scattered to severe storms are possible. They could be a bit short-lived at times. And again, once you get more enhanced, we start to really pay attention. That's numerous severe storms. And we're looking at a longer duration, more widespread. So that's meaning those could be a bit intense at times. And then that widespread severe storms for that level 4, which is what we are in the northeastern corner of the state. And then tomorrow, the southeastern corner. Long-lived, widespread. It could be intense if all of the parameters are there, if the storms hatch, if they get going, if they start seeing that updraft going back and forth. That's when we're really starting to really see everything needs to bake that cake just perfect for that perfect storm. So level 5, don't see that often. Again, we kind of know far out if we're starting to see the atmosphere being a bit spicy, if you will. We're going to start to see that out. But if you see that, that is something we certainly need to. But all of these, honestly, we could see some potential severe weather. So I just wanted to show that to you because we talk about those a lot and you're like, what does that even mean? And I was reading something on Facebook yesterday too about if you're not in a red, does that mean you don't have to worry so much if you're in the yellow? And I thought, you know, that'd be a really good thing to address because we all need to be really vigilant today, whether we're in that level 2, level 3, or level 4. Wherever you're at today in Arkansas, if the Storm Prediction Center has marked that off, we need to stay aware. So let's look today at what we are expecting as far as the timing of things and maybe what could prevent some of these storms. So we're looking at future radar here as we are looking around here at 7 o'clock this morning around the 60s, and we're starting to see still a few more clouds. But as we're heading through the day, we're seeing a cap. That is a warm layer of air, an inversion, if you will, and it's keeping those storms from really getting that updraft, that vertical extent that they need to continue to grow and to build. And that's where you see the atmosphere when those updrafts are going so high. You see that hail is a little bit bigger as well. well because it's going so far up into that cold weather, and depending upon the base of the clouds, that's possible, and then also the convective outlook of it. So here's the thing, we do have a cap right now, and so we are talking about those storms being a little bit less. And that's good news, friends. Now, the thing is, the cap doesn't have to completely go away for you to have 1 or 2 rogue storms. That's the scary part of this. But I don't want anyone to put their guard down, because we're feeling a little better about it for central Arkansas and still kind of iffy on the eastern portion. But again, I don't want anyone to let their guard down today, because it just takes a little bit of that cap getting a little bit of a leak, if you will, and you'll see that vertical movement, and you will start to see a storm really start to build and get a little bit more severe. Now, as we're heading into the 6:30 hour, it is showing development of a few thunderstorms. Now, this could just be a regular thunderstorm if that cap is in place still. But again, if we start to see any of that cap removed, we're starting to see some of that warm air moving and some cold air moving in. This storm right here could go from a regular old thunderstorm to a supercell very, very quickly. Within an hour, you could look up at the sky and see that the clouds aren't necessarily tall, but we are going to start to see that cap move, and then you're going to start to see that vertical extent. And then just one more time as we're heading into the eastern portion of the state, I think this is where we're going to start to see that cap kind of lift, and that's going to be when things get a little bit more dicey for our friends in the east. But again, it just takes a little bit of removal of that cap for things to get a little bit crazy and to spark a very severe thunderstorm. So my producer Peyton tells me we have a question here real quick, and I wanted to take a look at it. And we are looking at, okay. I am blind, so I'm having to actually walk up to the camera. Good morning, Tracy. Good morning to you, Joseph. I'm going to Mountain Home this afternoon. Do I need to leave early or later? I would say to leave earlier, because if we do have development of these storms, it will be this evening. The timing of these, again, where the wind's going to be crazy all day, so please be careful while you're driving. You know, that can move your car around a little bit on the roads. And also with these winds, you have to think about power outages and then trees and limbs. So that's a whole other factor of today. We've got a lot going on weather-wise. But Joseph, I think if you're going to Mountain Home today, I would leave a little later. Again, I don't want anyone to think we didn't know what we were doing with this forecast. If we don't see these storms, that's a good thing. If we don't see these storms today, all of the elements are there, but that cap is keeping us safe. So I would leave a little earlier just to make sure if we do see a break in that cap, you're not caught in the middle of a storm. So leave earlier if you will. I'll feel better about that. So is there another question, Peyton? All right, and we're also going to do here in just a minute to let you know we have CBS cut-ins that we do where you say, now your local weather, that's me. We're going to do those real quick, so I'll have to take a break for half a second, but if you'll just stay with me and be patient, we will come right back to you. This first one's only right around 30 seconds, so it won't take too long, but Peyton's going to get some more questions as well, and you can, again, text those in at 501-376-1111, and we'll be able to have a little bit more information. Okay, so we're talking about the wind. Someone just asked, they've got tents to put up tomorrow morning, and how long is this wind going to stick around? So let's pull up this wind advisory map here real quick. Currently right now we're talking 10 a.m. today until around 1 a.m. Saturday. So tomorrow morning it may still be a bit breezy, but I think it's not going to be that 40-45 mile an hour wind. So I think you'll be pretty safe, especially with this ending at 1 a.m. Things will really start to settle down pretty quickly. So I hope that answers your question. And again, we are talking about, Peyton, about how far are we from the cut-in? Okay, we still have 2.5 minutes. Do we have another question? Okay, so no other questions. So again, just an overall review of today. We are talking about these crazy winds today, 20 to 30 miles per hour gusting, and then we could see some sustained, and then gusting around 40 to 45. That's going to begin. We're already starting to see the flags. We're just looking at our camera here, iDrive camera in Sherwood, and the flag is already starting to move pretty quickly. And we were checking out the Capitol earlier, and they were really moving. The camera was shaking all over the place. So be careful when you're driving with these types of winds. Again, we can talk about limbs falling, which affects power. We can see some power outages from this as well, and this is before the storm, not associated with the storm. So that's something that kind of takes people off guard as well. And if you're headed anywhere in northwest Arkansas, you're going to see those, especially around the Fayetteville area. So the kiddos up there, I've got a son at Fayetteville as well. So talking about 50 to 60 mile an hour gusts. So it's going to be a little crazy, especially up on that hill. It's already a bit breezy. So hopefully they are staying safe there. But if you're headed that way, definitely take a little extra time. And then talking to Joseph again, just kind of reverting back to that, if you were heading north into that mountain home area, you could see some of those gustier winds as well, more so than here in central Arkansas. So Peyton says we have one more question. What is that? All right, we are looking here. This question is from Deb. Good morning, Deb. Can I fly a kite today, or will it just blow out of my hands? Laugh out loud. We love watching you every morning. Oh, thank you, Deb. I appreciate that so much. So kite flying, listen, if it's you and you're heavy, maybe, okay, we're gonna go to kite. I'll come right back to you. Good morning. We are looking at a wind advisory throughout today, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. We're going to see some of those gusts up to 40 miles per hour. If you're headed to northwest Arkansas, you could see some areas that are even a little bit more. That weather impact alert for today calls for breezy winds and a little sunshine, high in the upper 70s. We could see some of those storms become severe as we're heading into the afternoon and evening hours.
It hits you. Your laundry feels way fresher, softer. So you start to
Okay, sorry about that. Sometimes we have set times for those cut-ins, and sometimes CBS tosses to us quickly, and my producer got a quick note that, hey, they were coming to us early, so sorry about that. I want to go back to Deb real quick. So that is kind of funny because I don't think any little kids for sure should be flying kites today. Stay safe today. It's going to be a bit breezy, and I sure appreciate you watching, Deb. This is one of my dreams. It was on my bucket list to always kind of come here and work at THV 11 Wake Up Central, and so I am loving being here, and I so appreciate the support that you guys give me. So again, I always think of things from a mom perspective. I'm a mom of 5, and so when I think about severe weather, I think about how that's going to impact your kids and your family. Maybe you've got some folks that are heading out to doctor's appointments. Maybe they are looking just what's going on for the day. So I always want to make sure that you guys are aware of everything and just making sure you keep you and your family safe. So we've got a question here. This is from, oh, no name. Okay. So then first of all, thank you for sending in the question, but how is Conway looking? So Conway's looking pretty good. I would say that you are looking, I'm going to pull up this SPC graphic here real quick. We are seeing that areas of central Arkansas are in that yellow, but as the further you move off to the west, the better things are going to be. There's going to be lots of folks in the state today that receive 0 rain, 0 storms. You're just going to maybe see some clouds. You may receive a little tiny thunderstorm and wonder what all the hubbub was about. Again, this is all about that cap, that inversion on the atmosphere today. If that cap breaks, we're going to see some development, but still, the further west you are in the state, you know, we aren't looking for anything necessarily for development, mainly just wind, and that's more of the factor there. The closer you get to central Arkansas, meaning Little Rock, and sometimes there's a big difference too. I know that even with snow, Little Rock can have nothing and Conway can have 3 feet of snow. That has happened. So again, the further west you go, the less your potential is. So I think you're going to be okay in Conway. If we start to see these storms develop, they will probably begin to develop in that area, but they'll only get more intense the more east they go. So I think you're going to be okay there today. And I've got somebody in Conway today as well at UCA. So all of the college towns I am watching as well. Again, as a mom, I'm making sure and looking at the weather from that perspective. I don't want you to make sure that your teens, your parents, anyone that is out and about today, that they're safe when they're driving. If there's a better time to do that, even better. So we've got another question here. Peyton's letting me know. Who is this from? This is from, oh, hey, Joseph. I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand why we may not have storms today. Can you make it easier for a half brain? Now, you are not, by the way, like me to understand. So it's so funny you say this because yesterday, one of our other producers, Sky, we were talking, Peyton and I were talking to him about the development of these storms and kind of going into this. And he said, I don't have a base knowledge of what you're saying. And I joked, I'm like, we just explained it to you. So I get it. There's a lot going on today. So this graphic, again, is a bit, it's a bit loud and a little bit busy, but it's a good thing to talk about. So let's talk about severe ingredients. So for severe weather, we are going to need instability, we need moisture, we are also going to need that wind shear, we're going to need a whole bunch of things to kind of come together for that. So the atmosphere has something called a cap, and that what that is a warm body of air that just kind of sits on top of the atmosphere. And so you've got that warm air and things are just trying to, this is a storm, right? This is that updraft in the clouds. It's trying to go up, but it just keeps hitting it. And so the clouds can't get bigger and bigger and bigger. So then that's what you need for some of these storms. So if that cap breaks, or let's just say, my hand, I'm going to do this, if that cap gets a little bit of a break, you can have some stuff start to come up, and then it's going to start to get bigger and bigger, and the updraft is going to start going, and that's the storm development. But that cap is keeping things from really starting to develop into anything more severe, anything big. And so that warm layer in the atmosphere is really what we are focusing on. That's why I say look at the clouds. That's one of the easiest things. I started out in the Air Force as what they call an Air Force observer. I was a weather observer. Anytime I took care of the planes and the base, so what I would do is observations every half hour. So I would start to go out and I would look at the atmosphere, look at the clouds, the development, the winds, everything that was going on. Well, if I started to see the clouds build, starting to, getting a little taller, maybe they were a little more fluffy, maybe a little more flat. If I saw them build, I know I had more instability in my forecast and in my atmosphere. So that's where I would start to watch for the development of some thunderstorms and just kind of tracking that. So again, just not worrying about all the mumbo jumbo of meteorology. If you look out there today, just start watching the clouds and you can see if they start to build, we are going to start to see some development. And again, it's just a matter of where that cap is, how tall those clouds and those storms can get to develop. So we have another question here. Let's talk about that. Let's see. This is from, well, we don't have it from, is there any chance of hail and do we need to put vehicles under cover? There is certainly a chance of hail, but it also goes back to if these storms develop. If that cap remains, it's not going to have that vertical, because what hail does, I keep talking about the updraft when I do this, that hail goes up, it goes way up and then it comes back down. And so that's how it gets a little bit bigger, because if it goes farther up and then it's coming down and it's a little more surface based, it doesn't have time to melt by the time it makes it to the ground. It's all about if these storms are going to develop. So yes, we do in central Arkansas and more so in the eastern portion of the state. But again, and I hate to say that, I think we just kind of have to watch the afternoon. If we start to see that and you have time to do that this afternoon to kind of make a decision, not necessarily a quick decision, but you've got a little time this afternoon to make that decision, I would just wait to start covering cars and things like that, especially in central Arkansas. We'll know a little bit more as we're seeing this afternoon of what the cap is going to do. All right, let's talk about another question here. Who do we have? We don't have a name, I don't believe. No. Good morning, Tracy. Good morning to you. Thank you for answering questions. Will the wind gusts continue through the night? Yes, they will, up until about 1 a.m. I think we're going to start to see, again, this wind advisory itself is going to continue until 1 a.m. Early Saturday morning, so tonight while you're sleeping. But if, again, we're talking about those storms, if those start to kick in, those will be earlier in the evening. So that storm development, I'm not too worried about that with those winds at this point. But again, we're going to have to wait and see if the storms develop. So things should start to settle down around midnight, 1 o'clock a.m. And then it may still be a bit breezy, but I don't think it'll be too terribly dangerous. We're not talking about those 30, 40 mile an hour gusts at that point. So we've got about 2 minutes till our next cut in, and that one is a little under 2 minutes is how long I'll be gone doing that CBS cut in. So yeah, and we'll still see it on Plus, but just to let you know why I kind of shift gears there. But Peyton, do we have any other questions? All right, this is from Marshall. Good morning, Marshall. I live in Perry County, which is in the valley of lots of mountains. Do they protect us or make us more prone to stronger storms? Thank you. Well, thank you for texting in, Marshall. So anytime you talk about winds, we also talk about those mountains. Mountains don't necessarily protect us from even the severe weather necessarily, but it does sometimes, depending upon where you live, when you think about, we talk about a gradient. When I talk about a gradient, it's like how tightly wound a low pressure system is and the winds are kind of flowing through that. The bigger the gradient, so we'll talk about the mountains, the wider the mountains or the deeper the valley, you can see those winds kind of shift through there. And if it starts to close in, those winds will go even faster. It's almost like a funnel of water. So depending upon where you are between those mountains, you can really get some winds whipping through there depending upon the direction of that. But the winds themselves, of course, and it depends as well if you've got trees to help block those winds a little bit. When I'm in Texas at my sister-in-law's house, I always forget about how we have trees to protect us from the winds here. So I don't feel them quite as much as when I'm in Texas, because we're going to start to see those winds just whipping through because there's nothing to stop them. So we're going to go to that CBS cut in here. And again, it's going to be a little less than 2 minutes is what I will do there. But you'll be able to see this here as well. But again, this is just that quick on to weather, and we will do a quick cut in and then we'll come back to you guys and we'll answer some more questions. I'm really appreciating the questions this morning. They're good. I like doing this. I think sometimes it makes everyone feel a little bit better with especially this severe weather season. We get a little nervous when things go on because we've had a lot happen in Arkansas as far as severe weather and what we can expect. And it gets scary, and I get that. And again, I come from everything from a mom perspective, so I want to make sure that you guys feel safe, and we'll go ahead and start to do this cut in. So stay with me with this and I'll come right back to you. Good morning. We do have a weather impact alert today for potential severe storms as we're heading into the afternoon, but that is going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on this hour by hour forecast. A lot of sunshine today. We're going to see those winds whipping around as we've got a wind advisory and starting to see things start to get a little bit warmer as we're heading the afternoon. Again, these winds are outside of any potential storms that we might see later today, so keep that in mind. From the Storm Prediction Center, we are still talking about an elevated risk for severe weather for central, eastern, and then that northeastern corner there in the red, that moderate category. But we keep talking about the big if we will see anything develop. We're also going to be in a potential risk, especially in the southeastern portion of the state, mainly for your Saturday, as we start to see that risk really start shifting to the Gulf Coast. So keeping that in mind, looking at this future radar. So we have a cap, a warm layer. That inversion is keeping those storms really at bay at this time. We may not see a lot of development, but it just takes a little bit of movement of that cap for those storms to really start to accelerate. We're looking at this afternoon around 3 o'clock. We could see some development pushing through. And again, we may still see some storms, but that cap will keep them from going completely severe. But we're really watching these areas over here in eastern Arkansas. It just takes one cell to become a bit rogue for everything to kind of get severe very, very quickly. But it looks like the cap may hold tight until it gets just past Arkansas, which is good news for us. But our friends off to the east will have to keep an eye on things. That 7-day forecast, again, that weather impact alert for today. Breezy conditions throughout the day, 40-mile-an-hour gusts, and this afternoon we could see some severe storms through the evening. All right, we are back. Thanks for sticking around with me for that cut in. And Peyton, I know we had a few more questions, so we'll get to those real quick. All right, what do we have here? This is from Jesse. Jesse from Bryant. Good morning, Jesse. I work at a restaurant in Little Rock and we have a large patio. Should I keep the umbrellas down today? Yes, that is a really good idea. I think you'll be chasing them a little bit and have some tipped over tables and having to deal with some disgruntled guests. I don't know that it's a great patio day. The napkins are going to be everywhere. The drinks are going to be flying. So again, I think it's not going to necessarily be a bad day today. It's just going to be a windy day. So ladies, go ahead and just throw up that messy bun. It's that type of day. If you've got a hat, make sure it's on tight. We are going to definitely see some winds today before any storms even develop. So that's something to think about it. All right, so let's have one more question here. Let's look. This is from James. Good morning, James. So my sister lives in Jonesboro and was very close to the tornado on March 28th of 2020. She's very nervous about today being so close to the moderate risk. what time will the storm start there? All right, I totally get that, and I want to talk about also there's definitely some PTSD from these storms, especially with what we've had across the state, whether you were in it or you knew someone that was in it, or even driving through the areas that were affected. There's a lot of damage still after all of these tornadoes we've had these past few years, and it's dangerous, and that's the part of the country you live in. I know sometimes also folks are starting to see a little bit of the development and they get a little nervous. We have another cut in here real quick. 30 seconds. Okay, so okay, yeah, I'm going to fire up this future radar here real quick. Sorry about that. I thought we were had a little more time, but for Jonesboro, because this is important. So let's go ahead and move this real quick. For Jonesboro, I think we could start to see the development around 6 or 7 tonight. But just tell her to please just make sure she's got multiple ways to receive information. We are going to definitely be here. If she does have to find a place, I'm sure she knows this, but just stay calm. Make sure you've got something to keep yourself busy even while you're in this hidey hole and taking cover. Those are the important things to do, just to make sure you have a plan, stay calm, make sure you're getting the latest watches and warnings. And I know there's a lot of folks up there that will keep them safe as well. So again, we can go ahead and we're going to wrap things up here. We've got a couple of other things we have to do for our cut-ins, but I do appreciate your questions and I appreciate you guys watching, and this means a lot to me that you guys trust us. So stay with the TV11 Weather Impact team. Nathan and Tom will be on again at 2 o'clock, and we will know so much more at 2 o'clock about the development and that cap as well. So again, stay with us, and again, thank you for joining us here on TV11 Plus.